national lines of bullshit. Now, this is segment 2 of our series, National Lines of Bullshit, and we will consider China. Now, how did I get the idea of what was the national line of bullshit of China? Well, I was on this long-distance flight sitting next to this young Chinese guy, and he was telling me how wonderful China was, and he was telling me particularly how humble Chinese are. Chinese love to use the word humble. But, however, he didn't stop him from telling me about the wonders of his own accomplishments, his family, and his country. And, of course, I realized I had heard this before from Chinese. Chinese love to boast about everything and anything, especially their humility. These are people who love to boast about their humility. And he was telling me about how he and his group were traveling to Egypt, and how it would be so wonderful to be in Egypt because Egypt, like China, is an ancient culture, and people who are in an ancient culture must be honorable, and they must be decent, and they must be honest, and they must be humble. And I said, wait a minute. Most Chinese who go to Egypt, I had met other Chinese who had been in Egypt, and they had been robbed of everything, including their socks. But he was not willing to listen to that because he believed Egyptians had to be great people because they come from an ancient culture. And we see here the Chinese obsession with history. The basis of the Chinese national line of bullshit is history. And then this young Chinese guy got down to the 5,000 years of Chinese history. Chinese love to boast about their 5,000 years of Chinese history and how they're the most ancient civilization. I didn't bother to tell him, of course, that was bullshit because of the fact that the Sumerians in what is present-day Iraq were, in fact, the oldest culture. And then he tells me about how China never conquered other countries and how the Chinese like to live within their own borders. Well, if you look at ancient Chinese history, and again, I didn't bother to correct the young man, you find that China, yes, most of the time did not invade other countries. However, China ruled its foreign empire by demanding tribute rather than occupying territories. And so you see here the national line of bullshit of China. Historical determinism, 5,000 years of Chinese history, how China never invaded other countries, versus the American concept of the primacy of the political, which we discussed in segment 1. Now, of course, as I also mentioned in segment 1, I'm a great believer not in history or politics making the world go round, but culture. And what is culture? To me, culture is history, geography, and religious social control. If you consider all of that stuff, then you get a pretty good idea of a group of people's culture. Now, this idea that the Chinese have of 5,000 years of Chinese history is used as a clever justification for just about everything. Now, I could give you many historical examples of foreigners who were taken in by this, but to me the most noteworthy was President Nixon. You remember him, that's the guy who resigned. Now, President Nixon liked to talk about his epic-making trip to China and how he learned how we must never force the Chinese to modernize their culture. We must never demand that they be democratic because of the fact that they are an ancient civilization. An ancient civilization does things very, very slowly. In other words, the oppression in China, forget about the lack of political process, but the oppression in China of dissidents and of various minorities really was something that was being justified by the idea of the ancient civilization. Things must be done very slowly. These are proud people with an ancient history. Nixon fell for it, and I can give you, as I say, as a historian, so many examples of others who fell into this trap. Now, the idea that China is ancient civilization and has no particular need to speed up the process of changing their culture is the exact opposite of another ancient culture, which we will consider in segment 3. This is an ancient culture which very much boasts that in the past few decades they have made enormous strides of changing their country into a democracy. But the question is India really a democracy? Hi guys, if you like this video, there's a lot more on my Forbidden Knowledge Uncovered channel. Please subscribe and press the like button. In my younger days, I made 3 BBC documentaries and published 3 books with top publishers. Since then, I've been working on lots of forbidden knowledge, including how they almost blew up the planet with H-bombs 12 times, the danger of AI, and my youth in South Brooklyn's Mafia land. I try to tell you the most disturbing stories with a light touch, but even one nuclear bomb can spoil your whole day. Revealing forbidden knowledge can make some people angry, so keep pushing the like button until it hurts. That will ensure my books get published, which will pay for my funeral.